Welcome to my 2023 releases, of which there is abundance of releases, especially in January, so I'm so excited to jump in. This video will just cover from January through to March because there are so many titles and I feel like this would get quite boring quite quickly if I went through all the entire year in one video. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to break it up into the quarters, so the next video you'll see if my anticipated releases will come out in March. But for now, let's just talk about January through to March, what I'm really anticipating. First things first, we're so excited to actually get The Stolen Heir. I have read it since it's come out. Obviously it's been out for now, but I read it in time for it to come out. I'll have that vlog linked up in the info cards if you're interested to check out my thoughts on The Stolen Heir. But I think everyone was really excited to get this one because we were getting more of the world of the Cruel Prince. I'm not gonna say much more than that, but this was one that I was anticipating. The next one is Song of Silver Flame Like Night by, I want to say Emily Wen Zhao. This is I think it's Chinese inspired retelling and I'm really excited for this one. The cover is just chef's kiss. It is so gorgeous. I do believe I'm getting this in my February Illumicrate box, which I am so excited for because it's one of the reasons why I'm still subscribed. Then the next one I have here is The Circus Train by Amita Parikh. This is a World War II circus retelling. This is definitely for fans of The Night Circus. It's apparently a really good book for you, and I love The Night Circus. It's one of my all-time favorite books in the entire universe, so I'm definitely excited to pick this one up. This one is also currently out, but it came out in January. I then have Godkiller by Hannah Kaner in here. This one has got a really quick synopsis. Basically, our main character kills gods for a living, and then she finds a god that she cannot kill, and it is apparently incredible, and it's actually very short. Once again, I'm actually getting this in an Illumicrate box. I haven't read it yet because I do want to read the final, but I might just jump into it sooner rather than later, and I'm really excited for this one because I really love a short fantasy. This I do think is going to be a series, but the first one is very short. It comes in at under 300 pages, so it definitely seems like one that I should pick up sooner rather than later. Now the next one, I have seen various release dates for that, and that is Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare. I've seen that it's going to come out at the end of January or at the end of February. I'm not entirely sure where South Africa lies within that time frame, but I'm really excited for this one. I read Chain of Gold when it came out years ago at this point, and I really loved it. I haven't continued on with the series, but I'm actually planning on rereading from Clockwork Angel onwards because Chain of Thorns or the Last Hours trilogy actually takes place between the Infernal Devices and Mortal Instruments. So I'm really excited to pick that up, and I cannot wait to see what I think about this trilogy because, as I said, I really do enjoy these more historical books that Cassandra Clare has written. The next book is City of Nightmares by Rebecca Schaeffer. I actually got a proof of this. I got a e-arc. I still need to read it, but this one sounded really cool. Main character lives in a city where at one point everyone becomes their nightmare, and because of this she knows that her sister was afraid of man-eating spiders because she turned into one, and I feel like that's like enough to really just pull you in. The next one I have here is Age of Vice by Deepti Kapoor, and this one is really interesting. This is set around the early 2000s, and there is a shift in New Delhi, and our family is really rich, and this just sounds like a really great book. I feel like it's going to be one of those that you enjoy reading. It's a little bit of a thriller, a little bit of a slice of life kind of situation, and I'm really excited for that. And yeah, it's quite a thick book. Then the next book I have on my list is The Things We Do to Our Friends by Heather Darwist. I'm not too sure what this one is about. I basically sat down and watched a whole lot of people's anticipated releases for the year, and I was like, that sounds good. I'm afraid I'm not too sure what this one is about, but it does look interesting. And the next one I'm actually really excited for. Once again, this one is already out, and that is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fogarty, I want to say. I'm not entirely sure what her surname is, but this one really appeals to me. It reminds me of like cottagecore, essentially. Our main character, Emily Wilde, is not a people person. She really is there for the science, and she travels to a place, I'm not entirely sure where, I think Scotland, to study the fairies there and create an encyclopedia of fairies. However, the residents, the locals, do not like her because she isn't exactly a people person, and her field nemesis, like the person in her career who she is the nemesis of, comes and joins her on this research project, and basically he is charming, he is perfect, and it just annoys the crap out of her, and I feel like that's going to be such a fantastic read that I definitely have to pick up. The next one I have here is The Mysterious Case of the Alperton Angels by Janice Hallett. Janice Hallett has become quite prolific, I would say, in the thriller genre for her very unique multimedia style of writing, and I have to say, I have to agree, I've already read this one and I loved it to bits, and I just really love this, and I'm really happy that it's out in the world now, and I will definitely be picking up a final copy of this for myself, but I'm anticipating getting the final copy essentially. This one follows a cult where essentially they have convinced a young girl that her child is the Antichrist, and our story picks up from there, where 20 years down the line people are wanting to report on the case because the child, the baby, which was initially seen as the Antichrist, is now of age. And that is definitely one that I recommend for everyone to read. I had an incredible time reading that. It was one of my 5 stars from last year. The next one is The Cloisters by Katie Hayes. I don't know too much about this except that it is like an easy dark academia reading. I've seen a lot of mixed things about this book, but I for one am excited to read it. Then I have Really Good Actually by Monica Hazy. Monica Hazy is actually the scriptwriter for Schitt's Creek on, I think, Netflix, and I absolutely love that show, and so I'm really excited to pick this one up. This one follows a character who I think is just going through a breakup, and I don't know if her humor is the same as it is in the show. I'm really excited to pick this one up too. Then we have Mame by Jessica George. This book follows a young girl who believes she is the only woman in her family's life at the moment, which means she has to pick up all of these roles, and Mame essentially means mother, and it kind of also talks about the roles of women in society, a woman's role as a mother and a caring figure, and so on. And I'm really excited for this because I think it's going to be a fantastic dissection of the word and women in society. The next one is All the Dangerous Things by Stacey Willingham. Stacey Willingham took last year by storm with her debut, A Flicker in the Night, I think, and I never read that one, but I do want to read it at some point because it sounded really great. But this one, if I'm not mistaken, follows a young woman who can't fall asleep because if she does, something bad happens. That's what I've got right now. And the last one is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. This, obviously, I've never read a Grady Hendrix, but I feel like this is one that I'm excited to read. It sounds really interesting. I will be reading his backlist first just because I think that's the way it should go, but this one sounded really, really good. We're now finally moving into February. The first one I have here is The Heroines by Lara Shepperson. This follows another Greek mythology retelling, which also has a lens focused on women. I'm really loving these that are coming out at the moment because I think it's such a fantastic way to re-look at history, which has often been male-gazed focused and male gaze centric, and this is just such a great way to re-explore the mythology and the legends and the history and reapproach it through the eyes of the women in these stories, and I'm really excited for this one. The next one I have is The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Rashari Chokski. I actually have a e-arc of this as well, which I really need to get to. I've not read from Chusky before, but I really am excited for this one. This one sounded so cool. This one follows 2 characters. I don't know if it's dual point of view, but it follows a woman who is the lost flower bride and her husband who has been forced to, well, not forced, but is told to marry her and never dig into her past. And he kind of does because he finds out that her last husband goes missing, if I'm not mistaken. So that just sounded really cool and I'm really excited. The next one I think everyone in the fantasy sphere of reading is talking about, and that is A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. And I am still making my way through Pride of the Orange Tree, which has been like a 2-month endeavor, but that's because I haven't been focusing on it. I will be doing a special vlog for both of these books, I think, where I read the one, like finish it and start the other one. I'm really excited. I have heard that whilst they are both technically standalones, a part of the same series, and you can read them in any order, I do think A Day of Fallen Night spoils something in Pride of the Orange Tree, so keep that in mind. The next one is She Is a Haunting by Tan Tran, and this is a YA horror, and that just was enough for me, really. I also have J-Ben and the Golden Torch by Thomas Lears. This is a middle grade book which just looks so incredible. I would say this is more for the ages of 9 to 12 just because there's a lack of images in here, but this one just sounded really, really cool. It is kind of reminding me a lot about Percy Jackson, that kind of thing. The next one I have is The One That Got Away by Charlotte Rickson, and basically this follows 2 characters and a second chance romance. 2 years together, 20 years apart, one day to change their story, and I am a big sucker for second chance romances for some reason. I know not a lot of people are, but I am. This kind of also reminds me of One Last Start by Casey McQuiston. I also then have Secretly Yours by Tessa Bailey. I think it's pretty obvious why I'm excited for this. This is, you know, a book from our queen of smut entertainment, weekly calls her the Michelangelo of Dirty Talk. So I read the Hallinger sisters by her last year and I actually enjoyed those, so I'm really excited to pick up this one. The next book on here is Seven Faceless Saints by M.K. Lobb. I was actually hoping to get a e-arc / a manuscript of this book, but I haven't yet, and I'm still really excited. I think it's going to be exciting. This kind of can be considered a YA or a new adult, I think, just based on its theme, more new adult than YA, but apparently it's very angsty, very exciting. The next one I'm so excited for because that is Wayward by Emilia Hart. This book has been hunted for the last couple of months by Barrow Press, and the cover is just stunning. So I am really hoping to read this sooner rather than later so that I can get myself a stunning physical copy of this because it looks incredible. This apparently also has some dark academia elements in it, and it follows witches throughout time, so get excited. The next book I have on here is I Have Questions for You by Rebecca Mackay, and this follows a podcaster who goes back to her hometown to report on something that happened there, and while she is discussing things, some questions come to light, or some information comes to light that makes her rethink what's happened, and it questions collective memory. That's how far I've gotten with the synopsis, but I really am excited for this one. I love the idea of it. The next one I have is Wild Blood by Lauren Blackwood. This one looks really interesting. I'm not too sure about this, but I do think it's a YA. The last February book I have for you is Adoration, or as it's now being called, Hungry Ghosts by Kevin Jared Hoseen, and I'm not too sure what this one is about. It's a masterful novel about violence, religion, family and class set in 1940s Trinidad, and our main character is Caribbean. Now we're moving on to our last month of this video, which is March. The first one I have is one that I'm the most excited for, and that is The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty. Shannon Chakraborty is the author of the Daevabad trilogy, and I do believe this is set in the same world but doesn't follow the same characters. I'm really excited. I have not read the Daevabad trilogy. I have not read it, but I really do want to read it at some point, but I figured this would be a great place to start and then go backwards, essentially. We then have The Foxglove King by Hannah Witten. I really was hoping to get a proof, but this one sounded really interesting, and another one of those YA fantasy romance books that is making its way onto everyone's list. I then have House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. I really enjoyed T. Kingfisher's writing in Nettle and Bone, and I'm really excited to continue reading from her. When and how and which books, I'm not entirely sure, but I will be continuing on with her, so I'm definitely anticipating that one. The next book is The Witch and the Vampire by Francesca Flores. This one just sounds so cute. It's obviously a queer book, and that's all I really know. Then the next book I have here is A Book That Won't Burn by Mark Lawrence. I haven't read very much from Mark Lawrence, but once again, he's one of those really prolific fantasy writers, and this book title is superb, and the cover is super stunning. I'm really excited for this one. The next book I have here is Lies We Sing to the Sea by Sarah Underwood. This is a YA retelling that's supposed to kind of be a YA version of The Song of Achilles. That's all I really know about this one. In ancient Greece, a cursed kingdom, and a love story like no other, which is enough for me. And then the last book that is coming out in March that I'm excited for is A Good House for Children by Kate Collins. This is a really interesting story. It is from Serpent's Tail, which means that it's like a thriller, horror-esque kind of book. Her children would devour her if they could. They would eat her up and make her live inside of them forever. The house wanted them to live inside of it forever. She had become mother to a monstrous child. The reeve had spoken to her, whispered, and she had listened. A mother must sacrifice for her children. So that just sounds really creepy and really exciting. Those are all the books that I'm really excited for. I actually do have a sizable amount of proofs that I can read, which I really cannot wait to read. I really do need to get go on it because I'm quite behind on my reading for this year. I have so many proofs that where the books are out and the final copy's out, and I just want to, if I enjoy it, I want to get like a really nice copy of it. But yeah, those are all the ones that I'm really anticipating for the year. Let me know what you are looking forward to in the first 3 months of 2023. And without further ado, I will see you in the next video.